Hey, welcome back to World Entertainment, and believe it or not, Echo is here. All 5 episodes dropped all at once, and all the reviews were allowed to come out the second the show dropped. Yeah, that's right, all the reviews came out the second the show dropped. Not before, and not after, the second. That's when the embargo lifted. Well, I've watched all 5 episodes, and we're going to review the entire show. Is it worth watching? Was it any good? Was it an unmitigated disaster? First things first, if you're going to watch this show expecting a crap ton of Daredevil, and Daredevil is the only reason you're interested in watching it, you've seen all of Daredevil in this show with that clip of the fight. Because that is the one and only scene of Daredevil. That's right, that absolutely pathetic action scene is the only scene with Daredevil. And what makes the scene even worse, never mind the fact that their hits are about a mile away from each other, if you think this scene looks bad in real time, slow it down and watch it. Oh my good god. You'll even see Daredevil falls into the shells with the guns for no reason. When he jumps through those shelves backwards, he fires his little grappling thing, gets Maya and drags her through. That's where he vanishes. She comes flying through, rolls, grabs the shotgun, turns around, and he's gone. He vanishes. He vanishes and leaves in the middle of a fight after she has just murdered someone. So he sees her murdering someone. He sees her beating the crap out of other people with 2 other guys who are killing the people. And he just vanishes. He has this horrible fight with her and just buggers off. You're like, okay. And that's it. He's never to be seen, nor is he ever actually mentioned by name. You never hear the name Daredevil. It's never mentioned. All you hear is Kingpin saying to her once, "You're the only person I know who could go toe to toe with him." And that's the other point. How did she manage to go toe to toe with Daredevil? Because she doesn't have her powers at this point. What are her powers? We'll get to that. The first episode is basically a previously on, because it's just a basic recap of what happened in Hawkeye. I didn't watch Hawkeye, but I've seen the clips of her and her interactions with Kingpin stuff through other people's videos and clips online as well. And it's basically just all that, with a few new parts. So the episode actually opens properly with these clay people who look like they go to the same tattoo artist as Drax, because they have his type of markings all over them. It's all women. Then you know there's a couple of dudes there. They're sitting in a little whirlpool of piss. I don't know what it is. And the whole thing starts falling down on them after a little birdie lands on their shoulder and flies off. And of course all the dudes get wiped out immediately, and the woman is left holding up the ceiling of this cave until she can't anymore, and it falls on them. But it doesn't kill them. No. It just brings them to our world, where this clay type of stuff falls off and they become humans, and she immediately just says, "Follow me," and they do. Yay! They try and tell you that this show is so powerful for the Native American, the American Indian people, that this show is truly a representation of their culture and heritage. And all I could think after watching all 5 episodes of this must be how Disney see the Indians.
No minors.
Yeah, but I really want...
Sorry, son. Although they seem strange to us, we must respect the ways of the Indian. Hey, how are ya? Hey, how are ya? Hey, how are ya? Hey, how are ya?
Out of the 5 episodes, the 3rd episode is the worst by far. But the 4th episode has the worst editing by far. And the 5th episode is just a downright disaster that's embarrassing and incredibly short. Few points to go over. Her weight absolutely fluctuates in the show. That's not her fault. That's not the case of she just went binge eating stuff. She was pregnant either before, during, or after the show. Well, I assume before and during, is hardly after. Maybe parts of it were after. And it's very telling, especially in the last episode when she finally puts on the Echo costume, her new superhero suit, because you can really see the difference, and you can see images of it. But when it's on the stand, the mannequin stand, it's like ultra slim, and then when it's on her, it ain't ultra slim no more, and neither is she. So she's definitely fluctuated through weight during her pregnancy and whatnot, which you would think the show would have delayed until she had the child and worked the weight off or whatever, but clearly they didn't care. They must have rushed this thing. Let's get to the grittiness and the violence and stuff, because that's what they're really kind of priding themselves on. Oh, we're gritty. This is the first MA Disney show. Ooh, so violent and dark. We had to stick it on Hulu at the same time. It's not gritty and dark at all. Dark as in half of it's at night with no lights on, yeah. Gritty, no. Violent, no more violent than the other movies. I'm not kidding about that. It's like a couple bits of blood spraying on a wall. That's it. The most graphic thing is she gets shot and sews herself up, and you just kind of see that bullet. That's it. That's the extent of your like, ooh. I wouldn't care about showing this to a kid, to be honest with you. It's not like there's no decapitations or stuff. That scene in the trailer with looks like the dude's eyes are missing and he's on the table. That's not his eyes missing at all. that is stupid. There is no Marvel humor as such in it. There's more kind of standard humor. The kind of comic relief they kind of put in there is her cousin. For some reason, his name is Biscuit. No idea why. It's never explained. If it's even his real name or is it a nickname or something. But they just call him Biscuit. He's your kind of comic relief, and her grandfather, the way he kind of goes on is a bit meant to be a bit lighter in tone, I suppose. The entire opening act of the third episode is a silent movie. And I don't mean it's like, oh, they tried to do this and blah, blah, or they're watching TV and it's just like, no. They have made it to be the next ancestor that we're meeting, or at least the third one we're meeting, and they shoot the whole thing like it's a silent movie. It's in black and white, it's crackly. When they're speaking, the dialogue kind of comes up in those square boxes like, this is Ting, she wants to be one of these, and blah blah blah. When someone fires a gun, it pops up writing bang, and that scene goes on and on and on and on. It lasts about between 20 and 25 minutes. At least that's what it feels like. It just keeps going and going and going. Oh, and that's the other thing with this show. It absolutely 100% cements the MCU, because it's girl boss after girl boss after girl boss after girl boss after girl boss, and so on and so on. The way the fourth episode's editing is terrible is Maya Lopez, who obviously is an Echo, starts getting her powers really coming true, and what happens when it's coming true is she gets visions of her ancestors, from the very first one all the way up to her grandmother and all this, and these weird little light up swirly things show up on her hands. She starts spazzing out in one of her cousin's businesses. She's talking with him. Talking. It's a lot of sign language, a lot of reading in this show. And she starts wigging out, seeing the visions, and at the exact same time her grandmother, who's setting up a powwow, starts seeing the same thing at the same time. However, now keep that in mind, they're seeing the exact same thing at the same time. Maya is like wigging out in an office with her cousin. The grandmother's standing in a field setting up a powwow, seeing the same thing. The next thing you know, the cousin is pulling into a driveway with Maya basically passed out in the car. She wakes up and she's like, where the hell are we? And he's like, your grandmother's the only one who could tell you what's happening. And there's the grandmother just walking outside the house watering flowers. It's like, whoa, hold up. How the hell did she get here? She was at a fucking powwow setting that up, and she was having the same vision at the same time as Maya. How is she okay and she's not? How much time just passed? Absolutely ridiculous editing. And we know they dumped an episode. By the way, this show was originally supposed to be 10 episodes, and they knocked it down to 6, and they got rid of a 6th episode. Wherever that episode fit in this whole series, don't know. But apparently it was that unwatchable that they're like, cut it, get rid of it. If you're hoping to get a crap ton of Kingpin in this show, don't waste your time. He's in the first few minutes of episode 1 through the flashbacks. He doesn't show up again until the end of episode 3, and then he's basically sprinkled here and there in episode 4 and episode 5. And she basically takes his pain away. That's how she defeats him. Like, in the last episode, she walks into a barn type thing. He's standing there. His goons has one of her cousins. By the way, everyone's her fucking cousin. So it has one of her cousins and her grandmother. She lights up, her powers turn on. All of a sudden, all of the women surround her. She's now Rey Skywalker and what's her name from Secret Invasion. She's got all the powers of everyone, all in her. She is all the ancestors. But when her hands light up, her cousin's hand light up, and so does Grandma. And Grandma and the cousin kick the shit out of the goons. And so does Maya. Maya just kicks the shit out of everyone else as well. But this is the funny thing. Echo's powers in the comics, which the showrunner changed because said they were lame, was that she could echo your movements. She would see you fight, she would instantly know what your movements were and could echo your fighting skill, and that's how she'd beat you. Now, her powers are all of that of her ancestors, which makes no sense how she's winning fights, because the first ancestor came out of the ground and went walking through a field. The second one was able to throw things really well. The third one was able to maneuver and duck quite well. And the fucking other one was her dead mother who gives love. How exactly does that help you fight against a ton of goons and Kingpin? Don't know. By the way, how is Kingpin alive? Do they answer that question? No, they don't answer that question. He simply has a missing eye, which when we first see him has tape and plasters all over it, and then later on it's this weird little electronic type of eye patch thing that he peels off. They never explain what the electric patch does. Does it do anything? Why is it even electric? They never explain any of that. Half of this stuff in this they don't explain. The action scenes, for the handful of them that there are god awful. They're terrible. I don't know where all these other reviews are saying it's fantastic. It's not. It's total trash. Next to no Kingpin. One scene with Daredevil, which was horrendous. No explanations for a ton of stuff. You know, why has he got this electric patch? How did he survive being shot in the face? Oh god. The CGI, there's only one major CGI scene, and it's when she gets onto a train. And yes, it's horrible. You can clearly tell it's volume. And there's something that they need to learn what to do when you're doing a scene like that. Indiana Jones done the same thing. Wind. There has to be... Her hair does not move while walking on top of a train. It's like the train is going like 70 miles per hour. And her hair isn't even flapping the slightest. You're like, yeah, that's believable that she's walking on top of the train. And then they do another stupid part where she climbs down the side of the train on one of the train cars, and it's a cargo freight car. It's not like a passenger train. There's goons on each end of the flatbeds that are this cargo thing is in the middle, so they're on the flatbeds so they can see. The guy thinks he hears something, looks around, and she's not there. There's no ladder or anything there, but she's not there. And you're like, where the fuck did she go? She's now under the train with absolutely no explanation how and why she got under there. And she just kind of hooks herself and cuts herself into the carriage. A tiny hole, which then she's able to crawl up into and crawl back out of. And like, how did you do that without having to drop and be dragged by the train? The train cars close and squash her fake leg, and this is when she first gets her true push with her powers. She's able to push the force of the train off of her leg. Yeah. So every other thing she does with her powers is literally just fight and know how to move quicker and stuff. Yet in this instance, she's able to push the weight of a moving train off of the leg. She gets her grandfather to repair her leg, and he makes this new gold cresting that clicks onto it and stuff. The show is god awful. I don't know what they're thinking. Of course, we all know what they're thinking, especially when you see the girl power scene. One thing springs to mind when you see that.
Let's put a ticket in and make her name it gay.
Yeah, just without the gay part, as far as we know. One of them might be, who knows. I don't think Allegra Cox can actually ride a motorbike, because here's the next thing you notice. When they need her to be able to see her face, her shield mask, like the face shield on the crash helmet, is clear. You can see her perfectly, and she pulls it up to have a look at things as well, which makes no sense. But when she's driving and you're seeing her it's black. You can't see into it. It's like, that was clear in the last scene. How all of a sudden is it dark? It's like, oh wait, can she not actually drive a motorbike? Very possible. I don't know who or even why they greenlit this, why they thought this was a good idea, why they got people to write it, how they looked at these scripts and went, brilliant, that's what we need to do. It is such a disaster, and the best way to describe this show is this. So yeah, so we've gone on long enough about this, because there's really nothing else to spoil or anything like that, because it's your typical MCU, let's sit around the table and talk, even though she doesn't particularly sit much and she doesn't talk. So it's basically, let's sit around the table and sign to each other. It's a boring show, nothing happens. All they try and do is give you another villain. That's the thing people need to remember. She's a villain, and make her misunderstood and the good guy. So by the end, you're like, she's going to be a part of the next Avengers, isn't she? She's going to be now the good guy on their side. She's a villain. Her whole motive in the show is she wants to be, get this, the Queen Pin. That's right. She says, by signing obviously, that Kingpin had his turn, now it's time for a queen, and then keeps talking about going to be the Queen Pin who runs an empire. So she's a villain from the start to the finish of this, but they're trying to make you think she's the good guy, she's sympathetic, you can relate to her. No, you can't. Such a shit. Oh, by the way, how did she lose her leg? Well, they get into a car crash, and apparently glass doesn't shatter in cars, it comes off in shards and sticks into your leg, and that's how you lose your leg. Even though when you see all the glass in the rest of the scenes, and every time they go back to that scene, the glass is clearly shattered, not in shards. So well done, Disney. You didn't really figure that one out properly, did you? All in all, it's yet another absolute unmitigated failure for Disney. Marvel, Kevin Feige, I don't know how you're still in a job at this stage. Nobody's going to be talking about this show in the next couple of days. It's going to be a fart in the wind. And I think we've waffled on about it for long enough. So with that, like, share, subscribe, and I will leave it there for this one. Cheers. Catch you in the next one.